Hello, in this video lesson I'm going to show you how to get rid of nasty sensor spots such as the ones you can see here in our supplied image. If I just click to zoom in and then click and drag, you can see lots of nasty spots there, especially noticeable up in the clean areas such as the sky, but there's also some down here as well. So what we need to do is remove those, and we're going to do that with this handy tool here, the spot removal tool. So click to select that or press Q to activate it with a keyboard shortcut, and then we can hold the spacebar down and drag to find an area with nasty sensor spots. Now, one way to help you find these spots is to go down to here and let's just click on Visualize Spots, and you get a nice grayscale preview with contrasting areas. You can see there's lots of texture and detail down here that we don't need to worry about, but up in the sky it helps us to find more subtle looking sensor spots. Let me just toggle that off again. And you can see that there were some spots here that we might not have noticed if we hadn't used the Visualize Spots option. Drag this slider to the right to increase the contrast and make things stand out even more, and that's revealing things that we couldn't see earlier on in the sky, such as these little streaks here. You probably don't need to get obsessed with areas such as those because you can't really see them with the naked eye, so what I'm going to do is just drag this down a little bit until only the more noticeable spots are visible in the sky, such as these areas here. Once you've selected the spot removal tool and set up Visualize Spots, you're then ready to alter things such as the size. It's a little bit too small for some of the larger sensor spots, so let's just increase the size a little bit by dragging this slider to the right, and there we can then click on the unwanted spot, and it's automatically going to sample an adjacent patch of clear sky, place it over the spot, and then because we're using the heal option, it's blending the transplanted pixels invisibly with their surrounding neighbours. If I just untick Visualize Spots by popping down to here, you can see that the overlay automatically appears, and that's because we've got tool overlay set to auto. You can modify that by saying you always want to see the overlays, and then they'll all be visible when you click on the screen. And that option is quite useful so you can see exactly where your edits have happened. Let's just click on another sensor spot like this one here. It's grabbed a clear bit of sky at the top there and placed it automatically over the spot. Click again and it should automatically sample and transplant a clear patch of sky over the sensor spot. You can change the size as well by clicking and dragging as you move over the edge there, so you can make a slightly smaller sampled area, and that's particularly useful if you're working closer to detailed objects such as these areas down here. Let me just have a look at that section there. Click, and it's found a patch of adjacent foam. You can always click and drag here to find an alternative sampled area, and click here just to increase the size a little bit, just to make sure that it gets rid of all of that particular spot. So continue clicking and letting it sample to replace these unwanted sensor spots. The feather option just blends the softness around the edge of the transplanted and sampled areas to create a nice invisible blend. And you can take the opacity down as well, and that will then mix the spots with some of the original details. You can see a hint of spot there now, but usually you would leave this on 100% to hide all trace of the unwanted sensor spot. And a good tip when editing sensor spots is to go to the navigator, and you can then choose which type of magnification you like. You could go to 1:1 for an even closer look, and then there's an area such as this. I'm going to use the left square bracket as another way to change brush size, and then if I click here it should sample an appropriate area such as this bit of sea adjacent to the unwanted spot. I've just jumped to the left here to show you this large hair on the picture here. Now you could use a really large brush tip by increasing size, or with Lightroom 5 you can just simply click and drag to paint over large objects such as that, and it will then find an adjacent area and then sample it and spray it over the unwanted hair like so. So it's really useful to be able to spray larger areas if need be to get rid of unwanted spots or things like wrinkles, for example, on a portrait. And when you think you've clobbered most of the sensor spots, you can go back to the navigator and choose Fit to see the entire shot in the screen. Toggle this panel closed so we can see a larger version of the picture and see the sensor spots more clearly. And if any spots don't quite work, you can click to select them and hit the backspace, and that deletes them in a puff of animated smoke. I can press Command or Control Z to undo that spot removal because it's actually fine. Then let's pop down to Tool Overlay and change that to Never, just to hide the spot overlays for the moment. And because we're editing in RAW, the original information is always going to be available, including the nasty sensor spots. So we can pop up to here in the panel and click to turn the spot removal option off and see the original sensor spots. Click again to turn on the spot removal option, and there is all of our sensor spots healed over with clear patches of adjacent sky. We've used the heal option to get rid of the sensor spots by blending the transplanted area with its new surroundings seamlessly. But if you've got a detailed object such as this and there's lots of texture around it, then healing might just blur things too much. So what we're going to do is click on Clone and then simply transplant one area over another with a soft feathered edge, but there's no blending going on. So click to sample that unwanted object. It's then looking at an adjacent area and placing these pixels into this circle. You can click and fine-tune the position of the transplanted area like so, and you can also go to the destination there and move that around a little bit as well until you've got rid of the unwanted object. So when you've finished healing nasty sensor spots and cloning out unwanted objects, you can click Done to see the edited version of your picture. But because we're editing a raw file, you can come back to the sensor spot tool at any time and continue to modify the sensor spots. If I turn the tool overlay back to always, we can then see all of the edits that we've made to this particular shot.